Hey friends, so I've got a confession to make. I've been using a different DAW other than Ableton Live. Now I've been talking to Bableton and we have an understanding, and Bableton will always be my bottom glitch. But no, really, I've been using Loopy Pro, which is a really capable, interesting, and fun touch-based looping and control platform for iOS. Quick backstory. So recently, some close friends of mine and I started throwing events called Found Sounds, in which we send out the coordinates to where the show is located, and people go out into the wilderness and find the show. It's like an audio scavenger hunt out in beautiful and inspiring natural places. We try to play music that's harmonious with the space we're in, and this one was focused on beatless ambient stuff. And the first one was an unexpected success and an incredible experience. Part of the challenge of doing these events is the complete lack of infrastructure. Not only is weather, of course, a factor, but the last time I checked, trees don't have power outlets, so all the power needed to come from batteries. And we would have to haul all the gear to wherever we were going to do the show. So the gear itself had to be small and portable. So I bought this little Mackie battery-powered PA system complete with a sub, and frankly, I am blown away at how far battery technology has actually progressed. This system is loud enough to serve over 100 people, and it lasted for 8 hours without needing to swap batteries. So for my performance rig, I needed to pack super light, and I chose to use my iPad, a tiny little audio interface, and a tiny guitar. On the software side, Loopy Pro is the obvious choice, as it offers not just looping functionality, but it can control parameters on a fully user-designed UI. So everything that I would need is right there on the screen of the iPad. Since this show, I've also discovered that you can tie Loopy Pro and many other iOS audio applications into Ableton Live using Link Audio over a network at really fast speeds. Speeds fast enough for live performance. And that will hopefully be the next video that I put out. So make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell if you want to know about that. So also, I wanted to mention that folks that are in my Ableton live performance and live looping course are going to get this Loopy Pro project for free. So if you're already part of the courses, congratulations, you can download this thing and play with it and have fun with it. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at Loopy Pro. Word. Well, here I am with my incredibly small little setup here, and as you can see, I've just got a little audio interface. This is a Zoom AMS44, super cheap, awesome value for what it actually does. And then I've got an iPad. This is an M1 Pro 12.9-inch screen iPad. So it's got some CPU power, but not that much. I mean, it's still nothing close to a normal laptop. And then I've got this like little, as you can see, this little breakout right here so I can supply it with power. And then I've got this USB-C cable running into this really interesting, hilarious, headless jam stick guitar. I couldn't resist. This thing is silly. It's got both electric guitar outputs and USB-C MIDI output, so you can play like MIDI instruments, all right? Okay, so I'm going to attempt to explain this setup while I actually play with it. All right, so maybe the first thing to talk about is the input section. So I have 4 different potential input sources. The first one is this crazy granular effect called Fluss. Essentially, you can use Loopy Pro as not only obviously a touch responsive like looper platform, but you can also use it as a control platform. And so I'm able to click this button and that toggles the Fluss UI coming up, right? And I can use Fluss to change the output volume right there, or I can use this control, this handy control that I've made. So part of the idea behind our Found Sounds was that we were going to do somewhat ambient style music, right? So beatless music. And so I thought Fluss was a great platform for that, right? I have a bunch of different hilarious, here's some David Lynch talking about consciousness in forwards and reverse. Transcendental meditation. So I have all these different files, right? This one's called the kitchen sink. But essentially, each one of them loads with the volume all the way down, so I was able to, kind of bring in ambient textures over everything else. Okay, so that's kind of the first layer, right? And then the next 3 layers are all controlled by this guitar. This guitar is sick. You can play both MIDI and normal guitar. So let's start with the normal guitar. So just like I was saying earlier, Loopy Pro can control various aspects of plugins and other audio generating programs inside of the iOS platform. And one of those is this really awesome incredibly low CPU taking up thing called tone stack. It's just a, it's just a amp modeler or whatever. And so this is my lo-fi. This is my lo-fi preset, but check this out. I'll drag this over to the side. I can click on any of these. Right? And I can quickly switch between my presets, right? And then, so that's the guitar side. And then I also have an instance of Decent Sampler. So Decent Sampler, I can play a harp, or maybe you prefer a glockenspiel, right? So I can play those, and then I have a synth. And this is Synthmaster 2. Pretty cool, right? And this one's great for making bass. Right, so that's pretty rad. And, normally when you're doing guitar looping in general, man, like taking the octaver pedal and playing like lower octave bass, it gets old really fast. So having like more options to make like low end is really cool. I've also got like a saw bass. Maybe like synth wavy kind of sound. So yeah, super cool. I have all these tonal options, okay? Now, I'm going to take Fluss out of the situation for a second. I'm sorry if that's annoying. But what I want to also show you is that I have an instance of Celestine, sorry. Celestine is a super awesome, incredible granular processor because, and I know I already have Fluss in here, and Fluss is also a great granular processor. I'm a fan of granular, especially in terms of using it in a ambient sort of setup. But what's cool about Celestine is that it's listening to the input if you want it to. So what I have here are all these little red dots that say REC on it. Well, what does that do? Well, this is a routing trick. And essentially, I'll show you this in the mixer here in a second, but essentially what this does is this takes any of these input sources, so for Fluss, for example, or guitar. Let's just go to guitar and we'll make it clean so you can really hear what's happening here. But if I push record, what this will actually do is this will send the guitar signal through Celestine, a bus that has Celestine on it. So I can also add a little bit of granular like flavor, to what I'm playing. So now we've got Celestine doing that cool thing on it. I'll go ahead and make Celestine again, where I'm using this feature inside of Loopy Pro where you can call up or not call up the UI of whatever. And in this point, I have the ability to change the input volume so I can make it a little bit, more apparent. Or I can totally pull the mix out right from the UI. So, this is just for me doing things quickly. Like when you're doing live looping, you want to be able to get to what you need to get to really quick. So instead of having to pull up the UI to do these really basic functions, I can turn up the input volume in the mix right here. So with the record button off, okay, what I'm doing is I'm completely bypassing Celestine and going directly into any of the loopers or directly to the output. So let's go ahead and we'll record a loop. Okay, cool. All right, so I've got a loop here. Now, these effects right here, these are all inside of a constant buddy and friend of mine that I've known for many years named Tornado. I'm a huge Sugar Bytes fan in general. All the plugins they make are really awesome, and honestly, they're really performant. Okay, so this takes like zero juice for the system to use, but I have low pass, high pass. I can maybe make this a little more, I don't know, what's the word, lo-fi. Add some delay reverb. So now I've got, some tornado effects on this loop, right? Now check this out. I could have a different set of effects, maybe just reverb, and maybe a little bit of low pass on this looper. And Loopy Pro allows you to take a loop and move it, right? So Loopy Pro, what it's so great about it is that it allows you to use your fingers to do lots of things, right? And the things they call gestures allow you to do really quick stuff, such as delete. Right? Super fast. The ability to do things super fast without really thinking is kind of like part of the game when it comes to looping. Okay, so I'll go back and let's go ahead and record that again. And this time I'll record a little bit of Celestine in that mix. Okay, and maybe I'll use my lo-fi preset. So now my guitar sounds a little different. Let's go ahead and record that. Okay, so now I've got my loop. So the design principle of this looping setup is that I have 4 different colors, and each one of these colors has controls associated with it that are sort of in a vertical line, right? So starting from the top, I can divide. Let's say I want to just keep the first and the second chord. I can hit divide. So that's really fast, right? Maybe just the first chord. Or I can multiply, and what this will do is this will make copies of that first loop. Now you might be thinking, all right, well, why would you want copies of that? Well, the cool thing is that I can also run this through Celestine. And of course, due to Celestine, the way it's designed, it's going to do different things throughout that whole section, because it's, a large part of what it's doing is random. Let's go ahead and load up a different preset like Pixies. This is a different preset I made. So right now the record button is on this looper. So also I can send loopers. Also I can send these loopers through the Celestine bus, okay? And so what that means is I can record this into another track with some edits that I do. So check this out. And then I'll stop it. And now you can hear my low passing got committed to this other track, right? So I could also do that, you know, without Celestine. I can take Celestine completely out and just record some changes that I do in Tornado. So let's hit record again. So this is being sent through the bus. Here's some swellies. And now I've committed all those effects to this loop, okay? So this idea of being able to bounce loops around and record the changes that you made immediately is just so awesome, right? So so moving down, let's go ahead and look at fade out. So fade out is a command that does something over time. So this is really cool. What this allows me to do is slowly fade out something while maybe I'm recording something else. And when it comes to, you know, doing an ambient set, that's like super useful, okay? So I can fade, you know, things out, fade things back in. Let's go ahead and record that loop again. Okay, so I've got my loop again. And so let's go ahead and go to the next section, and that says overdub and overfade. So overdub is obvious. You know, I can... So now I have 2 loops in one, you know, place, right? And yeah, you know, overdub, I guess, is useful in some ways, but I rarely ever use it. What I actually designed also in this is the ability to do a thing called overfade. I don't know what the right term for this is, but basically what overfade does is that it takes, it turns the feedback of the looper down by a certain amount. I think it's like 25%. So each time that the looper comes around, the last loop will be quieter. And now you'll notice that that first loop is a little bit quieter than the lead. Right? So this allows you to noodle around. Okay, so as you can tell, each last loop gets quieter than the last one until I stop that process. Let's go ahead and divide right there. Right? So Yeah, this is a really cool thing to do. I think that it works better when you have shorter loops. Like this single bar loop is a really good way to do sort of the overfade kind of thing. But it allows you to noodle for a while until you get something. Sometimes when you're on stage, you don't really know what you're going to do just yet. And so having something like overfade, the ability to fade the last one out, is really useful. Now, something else I have is built in is reverse. So, of course, if you're doing ambient stuff, you got to have reverse, right? Let's go ahead and record that through Celestine. Having that input volume is really useful because you'll notice that, you know, if I just run this through, it gets a little quieter. Little input mix really helps. So I'll go ahead and record this into another track. Oh, actually, before I do that, I wanted to show you something else before we get out of here. So, as you can see, we're kind of off sync right now. Something else that I did is that if I get out of reverse, you'll notice that this sync is a little bit in a different place than this one. You can see that little guy moving around. That shows you the phase of the loop. So another gesture that I did is if I swipe to the left, it will rephase this loop right where I want it. So now watch it. It's all exactly in the same spot. See what I mean? So a quick gesture to the side is really useful. So anyway, going back into Celestine, a little bit of reverb, a little bit of pattern. Let's go ahead and record that into another clip. Stopping and starting. Uh-oh, I got low battery. I better get through this quick. Okay, cool. So now that I've got this this loop set up, maybe I'll switch to my sine bass on the synth. I'll provide myself a bass line. Okay, cool. So now I've got, you know, something going on. I'll bring some fluss in there. So this was kind of like the main idea around my performance. I was able to just kind of take loops, record them through Celestine. I would continue to switch through different presets, and then I would re-record those outputs into other places. Right? Reverse it. This little thing is like a granular slicer inside of Tornado. Pretty sweet, right? So being able to send everything through a record bus and then capture my performance was just a huge part of what I was doing. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and record this into the next one. Awesome. Now I should say, I'm going to go ahead and fade that out. I should say another thing that I was able to do was create a, you'll notice there's a record button by Fluss. So I can send Fluss through Celestine. Right? So maybe I want to, you know, get out drifty. And now we can hear Celestine's really cranking. And I'm using my Fluss with some ambient stuff. Let's choose like speech. I got some Carl Sagan in here somewhere. So, of course, without any Celestine, we have just a pitched up Carl Sagan, but with it, it's a lot more ambient, right? Just wanted to point that out. Okay. So anyway, yeah, maybe I'll go ahead and, I should probably show you the transient thing. Okay, cool. Let's just go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and record one more loop. I'm going to use my guitar, and I'll use it on the delayed mode. Let's go ahead and do that. Now you'll see these little lines kind of appearing right here. Well, this actually is an auto slicer. Maybe one of the best features of Loopy Pro. Let's record that. All right, so taking Celestine out, I can record this. Check this out. So now I have this sliced up version over here, right? Let's reverse it. Super cool, right? Okay, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and look at the routing, because I'm sure that is probably a huge part of kind of understanding what's happening here. And there's no way in a video, it would take multiple hours to break down everything that I've done here. But in the routing, we have, first of all, whenever I delete something, you'll notice that all of my effect knobs reset. And I also have a reset button, so if I have anything going on, I can just hit reset. But let's go ahead and look at the routing. So, you know, Loopy Pro is also a really great router. I have my 3 MIDI inputs, plug-in inputs, if you will, so Synth Master, Decent Sampler, and Fluss. And then I have audio inputs. This is actually for a microphone, and this is actually for another video, because I'm going to tie all this into how this can plug into Ableton Live in near real time over a network, which honestly, that is, in my opinion, a frontier way to use Loopy Pro along with Ableton. I'll get into that later. But you can see that each one of these tracks feeds into a looper, okay? And then the loopers, check it out. We have RCBS and then MXB. What is that? Well, we have a record bus and a mix bus. In the record bus, you can see there's my instance of Celestine, right? So the way that I'm doing this, check this out. You can actually minimize the mixer, but still watch what it does. Whenever I click record, watch the orange when I click this record. We switch from we switch from mix bus to record bus. So instead of bypassing Celestine, we actually are throwing things into a record bus. And the cool thing about the record bus is if you look at it, yep, the record bus can feed into any of the loopers. So essentially what I've built here is the ability to send audio anywhere to anywhere. So this audio could go wherever you want it to go. I could send Fluss out to Celestine and then record it into a looper, right? Or I could send the guitar out to one of these loopers and then push the REC button, which would send it into Celestine, and then I can record it into another looper, so on and so forth, ad infinitum forever, right? So there's a way to route audio from anywhere to anywhere. And then you might be like, well, why do you have a third bus? Well, actually, the cool thing is that you now have the ability to send groups into groups. And so what I've done here on my audio interface is I'm using an extra group to send the click track, the metronome, if you will, out to a different output. I should also mention that Loopy Pro thought of everything. You actually can use a flash. Watch the downbeats big and green. Blah! That's the downbeat, right? I also set myself up, even though the metronome's really easy to use and it's right here, I can just quickly tap a tempo in, turn on the click sound, or turn on the flash sound, or the flash feature really quickly right here on the front, right? So again, using Loopy Pro, the whole design philosophy around this amazing, I'm going to call it a DAW, I guess it's a DAW, is to be able to set up control and routing in a way that you think. Okay, so this is how I think. You might be looking at this and being like, this is complete nonsense, man. Right? But to me, it makes sense. And to me, I can do what I want to do with it. Another sort of really awesome feature that I want to show you is, I guess we'll go ahead and record one more loop. All right, so here's a loop. So another thing you can do is called retrospective looping. And so what this means is that the thing is listening to what you're playing before you even commit it. So right now I have 4 different options here to divide the retrospective length by a certain amount. So I'm just gonna go ahead and noodle for a little bit until there's something that I like. So it captured the last bar of what I was playing, right? I only had to click the loop once, which I think is really useful, sometimes, which is why I've actually baked in a way to switch between retrospective and normal looping. So normal looping works like this, like I start it, right? That's a normal loop, I have to close it, right? But with retrospective, it's already listening, so let's put it on 2 bars. So that's 2 bars. I can't help myself. Retrospective, super cool. I'm sort of getting more and more into doing this. I did a bunch of looping in Ableton using retrospective looping with delays and stuff like that, but it's kind of a little bit more well thought out here in Loopy Pro. And yeah, maybe some other things, the final things maybe to point out are you know, some of the effects processing that I'm doing. I have an instance of FabFilter Pro MB. Yes, you can get FabFilter plugins on the iOS platform, and they are incredibly cheap versus what they cost, you know, normally. So if I'm like playing a big, you can see that it ducked the lows. It's just kind of, you know, making things palatable, I guess. And then I have a limiter on the output. I don't know if this is really, oh crap, I got 5% left. I don't know if this is really like the best limiter, but it's pretty good. Yeah, and then I've got a bunch of tornadoes, and yeah, so I know that I normally don't cover Loopy Pro, and I don't really know what my future with Loopy Pro is, other than it may end up being my main looper vessel. I'm not sure. They've been talking about releasing a version of Loopy Pro that runs natively on Mac OS as a plugin, which, you know, I've been waiting for this for 4 years. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. It would be sick. And I think that people would be really stoked to have it. But I mean, a big part of Loopy Pro and what makes it so awesome is honestly the hands-on control. So I don't know if it would ever really make sense to do it that way. A lot of the, you know, the forward thinking that it took to create something like this is kind of rooted in the ability to touch things. So yeah, I don't know if it makes more sense to put this on Mac OS or not. It's incredible as far as like a platform for not only doing looping, but controlling things. You can control synths with this. You can control Ableton with this, because this is also a MIDI controller. Okay, these buttons here. You know, if you create a button, you can send CCs. Right now, I'm sending CCs to SynthMaster. This was my like mod knob. But if I choose a button, look at all the things you can do with it. Let's just say, all right, press. Press could be, you know, it's got all these filters. It's really fast, you know, MIDI out, right? I can send CCs, notes, pitch bend, whatever you want. You can send that wherever you're going to send it. And like, honestly, that is super powerful. You know, the target could be a virtual MIDI out, which allows you to send MIDI out of the iOS platform into anything, whether that be a synthesizer using the MIDI out on your audio interface, or whether that be, you know, sending MIDI to another computer. Yeah, so I am going to show you in the next video, hopefully, that I put out, how I'm tying Loopy Pro into Ableton Live in, honestly, like what I would consider a fast enough latency to actually perform with. And I feel like I've made a groundbreaking discovery. So if you're stoked about that, if you're stoked about this channel, if you're stoked about, yeah, music technology and still being a human music performer in the backdrop of a bunch of AI nonsense, follow this channel, because I want to show you all the different various awesome ways where you can still be a human. Cool, so I wanted to leave you with a little video of the performance at the first Found Sounds event. If you find yourself in the Western North Carolina area and you want to find out when the next event is taking place, you can follow my Instagram down in the description. And if you're a live performer or a looper, I have a continuously updated course on live performance with Ableton Live. So if you want this project, or if you want to check that out, if that's of interest, or any of the other learning resources that I offer, it's a great way to support the channel if that's what you want to do. All that info is down in the description. I hope this was inspiring. I hope you have a nice day. Much love, everybody. I'll talk at you later.